There's a moment many people experience at some point in their lives. Things are going reasonably well. Your job may be stable, your relationships may be fine, and some of the goals you cared about have even been achieved. From the outside, life appears to be moving in the right direction. And yet, somewhere in the background, a familiar feeling quietly returns. A restlessness, a subtle tension, a feeling that something isn't quite settled. For many people, this moment is confusing because life is objectively improving. And the expectation is that because of that, the feeling should disappear. And when that feeling reappears again, the restlessness comes back. The mind naturally searches for an explanation. Maybe some part of my life still needs to be improved. Maybe there's a goal that still needs to be realized, or a part of myself, some issue that still hasn't been resolved. And so the project continues. We attempt to make another adjustment, another improvement, another attempt at becoming that final version of ourselves that will finally feel resolved. But here's the interesting part. Even when improvements genuinely occur, the feeling often returns. A goal is reached, a milestone is passed, something in life genuinely gets better. And for a moment, the tension may soften, but sooner or later, the restlessness quietly reappears again. And when it does, the conclusion may seem obvious. Something still needs to be fixed. Something still seems wrong. And so the project continues. But the entire process rests on a particular assumption. An assumption so common that it often goes unquestioned. The assumption that feeling restless must mean that something isn't quite right in our life yet. That unease must be pointing to a problem. If that interpretation is correct, the logic of self-improvement makes perfect sense. Every time unease appears, it simply is a signal that something in our life still needs correction. But what if that interpretation is mistaken? What if restlessness is simply a recurring feature of conscious experience? The unease that appears from time to time, again and again, regardless of circumstances in your life. And if that's true, every time restlessness appears, even when things are good in your life, that can become less confusing. The restlessness isn't contradicting the improvement. It's simply continuing to do what it's always done. Appear, shift, fade, and return again. But when this restlessness is seen as a defect that must be eliminated, something subtle happens. Life begins to organize itself around resolving that feeling. Attention shifts towards what still needs adjustment, what still needs improvement, what still needs to be fixed. And because the mind is constantly scanning for what might explain this unease, it almost inevitably always finds something. Another goal, another project, another part of yourself that still needs to be fixed. And so the project continues. And over time, it can begin to feel that life eventually has become a problem that needs to be solved. That the purpose of improvement is to reach a point in your life where that feeling of unease finally disappears. But what if that feeling is not a sign of a human defect? What if, when that restlessness appears, while things are going well in your life, It's not a sign that something's gone wrong. That maybe it's a part of just being human. And if that's true, that the question that we've been asking could be entirely wrong. That question of what still needs to be fixed in myself in order for this feeling to be removed. And the more important question, the more fascinating question that we should be asking ourselves is, what if this project of self-improvement, of continually fixing ourselves, what if the feeling that began it was never a problem in the first place? That's something that we'll be exploring further.